Welcome back, everyone, to our second episode of the Kazumatsu Kanon Bookclub podcast. I'm your host, Aspirety, and joining me today we have the regulars of Pepe and therationalpi, and our special guest, the Bowiie.
Hello, I'm back.
It's been a while, Bowiie. I think the last time you were on was for the Charlotte podcast, so it's great to have you back on board for our book clubs.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So, I believe you're here for our 30-second recap. That's pretty much the only reason you're here.
Yeah, and I'll see you guys after the 30 seconds. So, this time on Kanon Legend of the Kanon, our ace of base Yuichi is confronted with a retelling of the age-old story of Todd looking for his very own copper. Makoto does her best YouTuber impersonation with several, it's just a prank, bro, resulting in an amnesia versus amnesia grudge match to see who can forget more. As it turns out, all is not fine in the land of snow as key magic meets key aids and Yuichi is left to learn about the 7 stages of grief. PTSD-chan makes an appearance only to later melt like the snow that was never actually on top of the hill. After all is said and done, a nice bow's tied on top of it all with one CG that takes a wrapped-up ending and throws it all into chaos.
Hey.
That was fantastic.
That was fun.
This route surprised me in many ways. I came into this with a pretty sour opinion of Makoto from the common route because I really didn't enjoy all those pranks and just...
She was quite annoying in the common route, and you can't...
annoying, yeah.
You can't even skip those scenes, and there's so many of them.
Yeah. But I don't know, I came out of this route feeling a lot more positive about it than I've ever felt after watching the anime. I don't know, maybe I've just learned to appreciate it more. But I really liked that they actually bothered to do a depressing route and just, kind of have it end on a really sad ending, a bittersweet ending, instead of just...
Kind. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Remind me again, Aspi, is this your first time reading the VN?
Yes.
I see. Okay.
This is my first time reading, too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay.
I'm just going to give this route a 4 for now. I liked it a lot more than Naoki.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 is about the same as what I would give it, so... Yeah, can't really argue there.
I actually gave it a 3. I gave it a 3 because I have personal gripes with this route that I've had for a long time, and they haven't changed after reading it again.
I'm not going to say the route is perfect. I gave it a 4 out of 5, not a 5
yeah,
out of 5.
I mean,
but
it's...
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
In my opinion, it's not bad. It's not a 2.
I would say that just because of the anime, Makoto is my first real introduction to a key story, and so I think I kind of got sucker punched by her entire arc the first time I read it, and so it has a little bit more... I guess I feel it a little bit more, even when I'm going back and reading it, and I've gone through a whole lot of other key stuff, and I'm used to all of their tropes and all of Maeda's writing style sorts of things. But
this is a prototypical Maeda
yeah, I think
route.
Yeah, it really is, and it just sort of resonates with me for that reason.
It's easy to say that it's pretty typical Maeda route, in hindsight.
Yes.
But if you think about it, the fact that this was, one of the first Maeda routes, so this was setting that baseline. But I think I would agree, give it a 4. Whenever I actually watched the anime, I actually enjoyed the Makoto route. But now, coming into it and reading it, I actually appreciated it a lot more, having read it now, due to some personal circumstances that have happened in between when I watched it and now when I've read it, that it actually meant a lot more to me now than it did back then.
Yeah, I'm kind of a similar boat where I don't think it's the anime did it better or worse. It's more that it's been so long since I saw it in the anime that I've changed as a person and I can see different things in it now.
I personally thought that the anime was a very faithful adaptation of her, even up to the romance, which was,
it was.
So, but it works because Makoto disappears. And I remember that's one thing I was, after I watched the anime, I was thinking, oh, this works in anime because everyone dies at the end of the route. not entirely true, but kind of.
See, I watched it in the anime, and I actually liked Makoto's character in the anime, and I think I'm one of the few there. And so when I watched it, I had the thought, oh, look, they adapted the bad ending. I need to go read the actual story and see what the good ending was.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's what you thought? Okay.
Welcome to canon.
One thing I definitely love about this route is how the emotional impact works. And that's one thing that it hits me every time I read Makoto's route, and I think it has the strongest emotional impact out of all of canon. It's just that scene where after you marry her, and then after she disappears, they then go on to, like, they show the dialogue of the whole picture booth scene, and then they show the picture finally at the end, and that just gets me. I was like, oh, sucker punch. That's a punch to your gut. And, like, everything about that scene was made to have you like feel that kind of emotion at the end. But I personally dislike like how leading up to it kind of I guess the events leading up to it were a lot less meaningful, because I personally thought that everything that was happening in Makoto's route was made for you to start pitying Makoto. And I honestly thought that that's not how Yuichi felt about Makoto. I personally don't know what he felt about Makoto, because I think that the route wasn't able to show me what he felt about Makoto. And I think that disconnect is what I dislike the most about this route. Like, I one thing I like about visual novels is being able to get inside the head of the character that you're playing and really figuring out how they feel and what they're thinking. But I feel that disconnect in this route more than any other route.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it's a case that the reader is disconnected with Yuichi. Maybe I'm stretching it too much, but I feel like Yuichi doesn't know what he feels.
That is also possible.
The relationship he has with Makoto is addressed a number of times, and he can never give a straight answer. It's like, I don't know if we're lovers or like brother sister or like pet or like whatever.
Parents.
Because the only only emotion I could get out of it was pity, and while that definitely succeeds in bringing emotional impact at the end, is that really what Yuichi felt?
I get the sense that is really what he felt. Like, I can't imagine him really having like strong feelings for Makoto. I think that it was really just sort of like I think he appreciated her, and I think that he kind of came to appreciate how strongly she felt for him. But I think in the end, it really just sort of came down to, just like you said, it's pity. I think, and it's the same sort of pity that you would have for an animal. I really do feel like by the end of this route, it's that Makoto really doesn't act like a human character, and I don't think that Yuichi really treats her like one anymore either.
And that goes into like your beautiful post about the difference in how we treat death, like for an animal and for a person. But considering the whole marriage scene, I personally think it loses its value if he's marrying her out of pity. That rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. Like, it all depends whether you want to interpret that as love or not.
Yeah, it's... ignoring the fact that there's an 8 scene and everything,
We talk about that.
Yeah. I just mentioned it in passing. But, like, I guess it's really a more personal gripe that I have with it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's badly written, because it does get you to feel something. It is able to portray an emotion towards the character, towards Makoto. It's just that I didn't feel that emotion was appropriate for the context of the route.
I think it's open to interpretation. I think that you can look at it and you can say, okay, well, he pitied her, or you can look at it and you can say, oh, he, really did love her. I personally kind of shy away from the interpretation of him really being in love with her, just because she didn't seem to be at the kind of intellectual level where you could have that sort of connection with her, at least at the point where he started paying attention to her and treating her better. And during the entire portion where she really was, like, I guess you would say like an adult, even though she was pretty childish throughout the entire route, Up to that point, she was being very antagonistic with Yuichi, and if anything, there really wasn't anything for him to build a relationship on.
Yeah, who was it on the forum that commented that they'd had like no time to actually get to know each other, and it was just kind of like they were brought together by this circumstance, and they were just like trying to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Might have been Aizen.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that maybe that it's not as clear cut as you want to say it. Like, you keep mentioning that maybe he didn't actually love her, but if you're thinking of a romantic kind of love, yeah, maybe not, but you know, there are other kinds there that he could feel like a sibling or a familial kind of love towards her there towards the end, once he realizes that, you know, what she is and the time that they had spent together before. But as far as for me personally, and I agree that it could be open to interpretation a little bit, because due to circumstances that I've been through, even within recently the last couple of years, that in this route, I connected with Yuichi probably more than any other canon protagonist, or not canon, but any other key protagonist. And again, it could be due to circumstances, because within the last 5 years, I've lost 4 family members to cancer. So I've been through sort of that slow fade deal that Yuichi and Makoto are going through. Well, relatively slow. But I was able to empathize more with him than Makoto. You know, she was a little lost to me in this route as far as what she was going through. When she eventually hits that point where she has no emotions at all, so that just sort of solidified that. But as far as emphasizing with Yuichi, you know, I was really able to get on his level and what he was going through. And I don't think it was just pity, because there are points when I believe specifically he catches himself and he's saying, whenever he's trying to figure out, I think it's when he's on the hill and he's looking for a way to save her, and he wonders, am I just being selfish? Am I prolonging her suffering just because I want to keep her around?
That's definitely true. He does mention that he's doing this out of his own self-interest. It's not just pity. But then I also think that, you know, love takes many forms, and I believe that it is true that even like the horrible circumstance of losing a loved one can make your bond that much stronger, almost. Like, it kind of fosters development of the love between two people when you know that time is about to end. It's how humans are, I guess. You know, we want to treasure what we have, and it's just like, we want to appreciate what we have a lot more. Maybe if Makoto wasn't dying, like, he wouldn't feel the way he does, but that doesn't mean it's not real love, you know?
Right, it's sort of, that tragedy sort of bolsters the connections forming, because you know you don't have as much time to let them naturally form.
Yeah, exactly. It's like speeding it along.
Yeah, another way to put it is just that you're trying to compress all of the time that you're not going to have together into that like last few days.
I can definitely see those as valid emotions that Yuichi is feeling. It's just that maybe I felt like the route was trying to take this romantic approach without showing the romantic emotions behind them, kind of.
I don't think it was. I mean, like, the hate scene will argue with me, but I don't think that was necessarily romantic either. Yeah, maybe I should just not mention that at all. But
well, I'm definitely iffy about the whole marriage thing.
You know, there was no kissing or anything. It was just like they sleep in the same bed, but it's definitely like, as she's acting as an animal there. It's a habit where she just wants to be close to Yuichi. Not in a romantic sense, but just in a human sense. It's more of like, I guess it's more of a paternal love, but for Yuichi it's more of a paternal love. For Makoto it's more of maybe a master pet love. But the point here is that they're close, you know, and that doesn't equate romance. There's different kinds of love here, and I think this is a particular kind of love that we're probably not going to get to see a lot of in the other routes. It's interesting.
I just thought of something. But the idea of like romance and getting married, I think it kind of changes context as people get older. And I think that you can really kind of see Makoto as being a child in a lot of ways. She's her character acts childish. There's a couple points where he sort of comments on it, like oh, well, if you're a real adult, then go buy me a porno mag. That scene. And so I think you're supposed to get the sense that in terms of emotional development and intellectual development, Makoto she's like, 6 or 7. And if you think about little girls at that age, or even little boys at that age, the idea of getting married has a different context. It's not that you love somebody and you've been dating them and you're going to live the rest of your life together. It's like that. It's just, I don't know, I like that person, maybe we'll get married. Like, it's just sort of, it's an expression.
That idea of, it's fun to be with them, and so if we get married, we can be together every day. And
exactly.
we can do whatever.
It's just an expression of our wish to stay with Yuichi forever,
Yeah,
which is
exactly. So the fact that there's not any romance there necessarily, or at least we don't get to see a romance develop, that's perfectly fine. In some, very powerful way, Yuichi is just sort of bringing his understanding of marriage down to Makoto's level and saying, you know what, I'll meet you here. It's like, you want to get married and you want to get married to me, and you said that earlier. I'll give you what you want. It doesn't mean the same thing to Yuichi, but he's doing it as a gesture to Makoto.
It's not like they're getting the paperwork and registering themselves as a couple.
That is a valid interpretation, valid reasoning. And that's one I admittedly did not think of.
Yay, we're winning Pepe over.
Oh, no.
It's moved up to about a 3.3 now.
All right. By the end of the podcast, will I have to change my rating to 4?
We'll get you there.
We'll get you to a 5.
Okay. Oh.
It's kind of like
what's it going to take to get you into a 5?
It's been flipped, Pepe. Last week I was the one that was bagging on Naoki's route. Now it's your turn.
Well then, let's see where it goes.
Anyway, we have a lot to talk about. Should we save the ending for the end?
I think so.
Let's work through what we can. Let's talk a little bit about the common root a little bit more. I know, Pepe, you brought up that you find it a bit weird that, I guess it's not really the common root, but early root. Naoki just kind of disappears suddenly when the root starts kicking in.
Yeah.
You found that a bit jarring, did you?
I did. Maybe because I'm so used to seeing Naoki in common, and the fact that they're still living with each other, and she kind of disappears from Yuichi's whole mindset. I found that a bit weird. He doesn't go with her to school anymore, and they do explain that it's because Naoki's always late.
Yeah.
But I also kind of felt it as kind of an excuse to go to school with Makoto.
Yeah, it's you can't go focusing on more than one go at a time. It's just not cool, Yuichi. Yeah. Arrogance, mate.
Arrogance.
No comment on that. Just it is what it is. I found it funny that Ayu just keeps popping up. It's just hey, remember me? I gotta go now, but you should totally read my route. Yeah.
Now they did something that I found interesting in that near the end of the route, she does pop up and she's like, "Hey, I found what I was looking for."
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, when it's almost like rubbing it. It's kind of makes you feel bad because even if you know the ending and what's coming, it's like rubbing it in. Like, hey, while you were over here doing this, my problem still exists, and you're not helping me with it.
I think I'm pretty sure that happens in almost every route.
Yes.
Yeah. Every route, probably.
It's pretty funny.
Well, it doesn't happen in Ayu's route, I can tell you that much.
Every other character shows up and is like, "What's up?"
You forgot about us? I'm going to start off by bringing up something Miguel mentioned on the forum, which is Piero's existence is what probably saved Makoto from despair. She was all alone without any clue on what to do. However, Piero was in a somewhat similar situation, and this is what allowed a bond to be created between them. So I'm noticing like a thing that was mentioned a couple of times on the forum is this idea that in Makoto's route, there's this theme of seeking comfort in knowing you're not alone in your struggles. It's something that came up with Makoto and Piero, obviously, as like they're both like two strays basically, and just they don't know where to go home at that point, and it's like they form that sort of empathy there. But there's also the empathy that we see between Amano and Yuichi, because Amano's already gone through all of this before, and simply being able to be that rock for Yuichi in the end, and you know, letting him know that, you know, this sucks, but at least you're not alone here. Like, I've been through it too. I feel like that was like very instrumental in Yuichi, like having the strength to endure what happened and like make Makoto's last moments worth remembering. I mean, you could even interpret that to be like Amano maybe failed to do that with whatever happened in her past, and this is like making friends with Makoto is sort of like making up for what she did in the past. Maybe that's a stretch, I don't know. You could, but maybe that could be like why we see her warmth there. But yeah, I don't know. There's like this theme that keeps coming around, like at least twice, maybe more times I haven't thought of. I just thought that was interesting. You know, I could definitely like feel when you feel like you're not alone in something, it feels like you're sharing the burden almost, and it's not like the whole world to bear on your shoulders. No one's responding to anything I'm saying.
I'm thinking about what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples other than Amano, and I really can't come up with any. But I definitely think those are the parallels, because you have, you know, Makoto and Piero, and that's very similar because both of them were stray animals at one point, and I think that's really where that connection kind of comes in. And I can't help but wonder if the scene where Makoto drops Piero onto the truck, if that's kind of like her rejecting herself, or whether it would be more like her reenacting what happened between her and Yuichi. I'm not sure which way I would sort of interpret that.
I still don't know how to interpret that scene, to be honest.
I have a fairly how do you say that? I have a fairly accurate, strong maybe opinion. Fairly strong idea about what they're trying to say in that scene. Like, this does go into the whole empathy thing. I think like the reason why she threw them away is because like she felt thrown away by Yuichi as a fox 7 years ago, and I think like these 7 years she felt like, oh, that's a normal thing to do when you don't care about the poor old animal, you just, you know, leave them and throw them away. So she thought that was like, okay, I can do that to Piero, it's fine, because Yuichi did that. And then she just gets so surprised when Yuichi just shouts at her for doing that, and she probably realized, is that not what he was feeling when he did that to me 7 years ago?
I like
that's
that.
the way she interpreted it, but it really wasn't what he was feeling. That's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah, that's sort of, you know, you can see that, and that's why she was really angry with him, even though she didn't know why, is because that's how she interpreted it, that, hey, he just abandoned me, so, you know, that must be what's normal.
I think I think one common thing about like Naoki's route and Makoto's route here is that they both kind of have this grudge towards Yuichi because of misunderstanding him. I mean, Yuichi doesn't help at all, being all angsty at the end of his at the end of his stay last 7 years ago. But well, something similar.
Yeah. Damn it, Yuichi.
Making
everyone cry when you were a kid.
Yeah, he was a little heartbreaker.
and now he has to take that time to make them realize, no, I was just emo.
I don't even think he was emo. I think he was just a kid.
Yeah, it was
a phase.
We still don't know why he was all angsty that time.
Well,
I think it's all
We're not talking about Naoki's route here. We're talking about Makoto's route, and wasn't the reason like he abandoned her just because like she got better?
Actually, they never say that, do they? Like,
Oh yeah, they do. Like the fox was sick, and he took it in, and when it was better, they left it. They took it back, you know, because
Yeah, she was injured, and he like nursed her up for a period of time, and then I think I don't
Did
know
he-
if it ever
like,
said
what
that he
did he
just
do?
released
Did-
her, but he left.
Yeah, I mean-
of course.
he did leave, but in between that, like, what did he do with the fox? Did he just leave her on the mountain and come visit her every now and then, or?
Well, I mean,
They
he
just-
had to leave, right? Like, he only
Yeah.
was around for winter break, so...
yeah, that's true.
I mean, at some point he was going to have to leave her, even if she hadn't gotten better. I mean, presumably Akiko would have taken care of her in that case and then been the one to leave her off, but... I mean, we're talking about a wild animal here. At some point,
Yeah.
you put it back in the wild.
Yeah.
That's what Makoto said when she released Biro.
He
Yep.
wasn't a wild animal, though. But, I mean, I guess, you know.
That's just Makoto's
She
interpretation.
probably doesn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
I want to like dial this back and let's talk a little bit more about Amano. Best girl.
Oh.
Um,
Oh.
There were
Kanon,
definitely a lot of
Amano
people
Ru-
who are very into Amano.
Amano after
yeah,
when?
Kanon on the forum he brought up a great quote where it's like, Amano is an ex-key protagonist. An ex-key protagonist. So it's like she's already been through her route and came out the other end scarred from it. But now she's like here to help someone else going through the same thing.
She got the bad end.
Yeah, she got the bad end.
Yeah.
Didn't use the walkthrough. Poor Amano.
Yeah, she pretty much is the walkthrough of this route.
Yes,
Okay,
she
so
is.
now you're going to see some serious shit coming up, Yuichi. I hope you're prepared for it. Yeah, but
It was
I don't
all
know.
fun and games until now, Yuichi.
Yeah, she's got so much character though, because like we first see her and she's just like a really gloomy girl that like doesn't
Yeah.
seem to want to associate with everyone. We think, oh, she's just antisocial. That's her, just her personality. As we go on, what becomes apparent is that this isn't how she always was, and we start getting glimpses of her original personality that shine through whenever she's like talking about Makoto, or yeah, like after the route ends and we have the epilogue, we get like a really nice scene where it's like, what if candy falls from the sky? It's like, that's not something you'd really expect her to say from the start of the route, but you
That's
know,
the
we kind
real
of,
Amano personality.
yeah, like we're kind of seeing that old personality shine through, and I wish we could have seen more of it, but nah, she's a
Amano
fantastic
after when?
character.
I think I agree with what Kanon said on this, which was basically we wouldn't enjoy that character as much if we got to see more of her. It's the fact that we only get like this little
That's true.
tantalizing taste where we say, maybe there's more to this character than I realize, that makes her really interesting. Because I think that if we knew everything about her story, it would just be kind of plain. But the fact that she's the side character that you feel like has more going on makes the world seem bigger. If that makes any sense, it makes it seem like there are things that happen outside of the story and outside of Yuichi.
I don't know, but I have an intense attraction to side characters in key stories. They always get me. I'm always rooting for the side
Suganami.
characters. It's Suganami.
Oh, I can't argue with you. I love Kaori.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, Kaori is very good.
there's so many like great characters that don't get their own stories in Keyworks, and maybe that like adds to their appeal. It's more of a show don't tell sort of thing going on, where
I
So what you're
personally
saying,
wouldn't.
all routes should be 5 minutes long from now on?
we should have Komura roots, yeah.
I personally wouldn't mind the Doki Doki Amano route, like after she's developed, like not necessarily learning about her backstory, but daily life with Amano. Yeah,
This isn't a dating
Amano
sim,
after.
Pepe.
and I'm saying right now I wouldn't mind that.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
That's what he wants.
So about Amano's whole about Amano and the whole empathy thing with Amano, I did take a screenshot which which we probably show. Yuichi at one point, while he's struggling over what he should do about Makoto, he says, "My behavior seems somehow familiar, as though I've observed it in someone else." And that's like that's a being telling you, "Hey, Yuichi, you're turning into Amano."
Yeah, that was good. I like that a lot.
It was good, and like it's kind of interesting to see like how like despite the warnings from Amano, there's no escape from feeling the way that she did. And thankfully, at the end of the route, Yuichi handled it in a way that he could move on from that. But imagine how it would have been if he couldn't, like if he didn't do everything he could for Makoto.
Yeah.
He just end up like Amano, and Amano would end up the same, and that's quite
that's
sad.
what I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
they both kind of helped each other grow from this experience, and I feel like having this second chance for Amano to like, make things right with someone else who's going through the same thing is kind of like a cathartic healing experience for her. That's my interpretation of events. It could be wrong, but
I guess
I really liked it.
Oh yeah, go.
Sorry. I really liked it because I like it whenever things have been set up and then they click. And I believe at one point he had been... I think it was right when he met her, he had actually had the line something like, "I wonder what made her that way," because she'd mentioned she doesn't have any friends and she doesn't want to talk to him and all this stuff. And then at that point, whenever he's at school and he's talking about, "No one really comes over to talks to me, and that's good because I don't care about anybody else. I don't want to talk to anybody else." And then it's like then you can see the moment when he clicks with him. He's like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of somebody," and that's you can see that's when he realizes that is how she became this way, is the same thing that I'm going through now, and then that does lead to them being able to help each other out and get through it.
Now, maybe that goes back to what Pepe was complaining about earlier in the episode where he was saying Naoki just sort of disappears. Maybe that is part of this, is that Yuichi sort of drives a wedge between himself and Naoki, who's the character that he's kind of closest with outside of, his relationship with Makoto, is that, oh, well, I really don't want to be talking to anybody, and even though Naoki could ostensibly relate to me on this point because she also knows Makoto, it's not the same for her.
She still calls her that girl.
Yeah, that was always a little weird.
Which I think is also kind of strange, because whenever you don't go on Makoto's route, Naoki, she's much more friendly towards Makoto, and I think that maybe it's just a little bit of jealousy, honestly.
maybe. Yeah. Just not quite understanding the situation.
Anyway,
Did you want to talk about that second point, Pepe?
Yeah, and along with other stuff like, so I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but Amano was kind of a stalker. She phoned Yuichi, and I don't remember him ever giving her his number.
Yeah.
And then
telling her where he lives.
Or telling her where he lives, but on the last day she appears outside their doorstep. And like, how does she know that that's Makoto's last day? It felt all too convenient for me, but I mean, is this part of her character? Is she secretly a stalker? I don't know.
God.
I don't know what to make
Amano
of
dating
it.
sim.
At this point, I'm torn if it's a convenient plot development, or if it's something if it has something to do. So, what do you guys think?
It's convenient.
I think I'm getting some good ideas for fan fiction right now.
Jesus Christ, guys.
Yeah, so come back next week where we will now we'll have the fan made Makoto after. Amano after, damn it.
Yeah, fuck.
Amano after. Nice boat edition.
We are scrapping the Suginami after project and now starting on the Amano after.
I mean, Suginami before, right? She didn't even have a story.
Okay, Suginami.
Suginami's story.
All right, anyway, that's all I wanted to point out then.
The Kazamatsuri Unsung Heroines fanfiction patch compilation. Yeah.
That is a valid idea. We can tell that at key points.
Anyway, guys, we need to get back on topic. We only have a bit left. Akiko. She was pretty great this route. I had a lot of complaints last route, but I feel like in this route she was a much more active player. And,
well, she kind of disappeared in the last route.
Yeah, she did.
Anyway.
I mean, this is convenient drama, sure. But whatever. Like, in this route, she actually plays a really good supporting role in just understanding the situation, accepting Makoto for who she is, and making sure her last moments are happy ones. That one scene at the end where she just like breaks and like holds her hand to her face, it's like she's telling them to take care. It's just like, oh no, not you too.
I mean, Akiko is very observant and like she knows everything that's happening, even though Yuichi doesn't know, she knows. And like she knows that this is probably gonna be her last day, and she's trying to hold it in, but she can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm quoting Aizen here. Even Jesus cries for the people he loves. So he made the connection with Akiko and Jesus last route, and he's making it again. So he better make it again for the my route and onwards.
If she even appears. Yeah.
So I think the thing that really strikes me about this is that Akiko really has two roles that she needs to fill. She needs to be everybody's rock, but she also has to be nurturing and, kind of like this sort of mother figure.
Yeah.
And this is one of those places where she can't really be both at once, right? Because if she's going to be a nurturing, character, she has to... if she's going to be a nurturing person, I should say, then she has to have strong emotional attachments to the people that she's caring for, and that includes Makoto while she's living under her roof. And this is one of those moments where she has to be strong for Yuichi and she has to be strong for Makoto, but she can't not feel those feelings that she's feeling. So it's interesting because this is the part where we really see the conflict for Akiko between her different roles in the family.
Akiko is human too.
Yeah, and I'm so glad she is.
There was actually it was sort of small and it went by really quick, but it was actually really powerful in showing that in the scene wherever he has the idea of going to the photo booth and he's like, hey, let's go out to eat tonight. And she's like, yeah, that's great. I would appreciate a night off. And then as he's passing the kitchen, he looks and sees that she's already finished dinner and that she's just going along with the idea.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Akiko's cool. 10 over 10.
So another thing I wanted to bring up is there's this really good symbolism in this route, which is fireworks. It started off as a dumb prank, but as we get on, they start using it in interesting ways. We also have the song title, Hanabi. What is it? Fuyu no Hanabi? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, winter fireworks.
Yeah, which is I guess sort of bringing this symbolism more to a head. I'd just like to talk about what Aizen had to say about this song.
Winter fireworks is used to an amazing effect here, not only because Makoto's consciousness is hanging by a thread, but because the name alone harkens back to an earlier comparison about the simple, fleeting nature of pleasure. A firework is only a brief source of happiness that ends all too quickly, and they always come in limited supply. It's not unseasonable to shoot fireworks in the winter, but it would be quickly overshadowed by an even more fragile, perhaps sorrowful spectacle. In this line of thinking, Yuichi does everything in his power to make Makoto's final days memorable and fun, despite the impending, terrible fate in store for both of them.
So there was this fantastic little scene in the visual novel where they're actually... Akiko goes to buy fireworks so they can just play, and there's so many things that come up here, like Yuichi talking about how it's sad that all these happy things, they're so limited, and the experience can only be had once, and like, you know, once a firework is out, it's out. You know, it's just very brief and it's flashy, but it ends so quickly, and it just feels like there's a certain sadness which comes with that firework ending. And one little quote that really stuck to me is, it comes from the VN. The flickers and flashes that light her face serve as stark reminders of the gathering darkness. That's fucking cool prose, mate. You know,
Quite.
It really does bring to mind that image that, you know, this is just a brief burst of happiness before, you know, just to kind of like distract them from what's impending. Yeah. But
hey,
that's a very dark way of looking at it. But you know,
that brief burst is what makes fireworks all the more beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. There's a flip side to everything. Just like there's a flip side to look at that, is the reason you enjoy the fireworks is because it flashes and it's gone. If it never ended, it would be commonplace. There would be nothing spectacular about it.
That's very true.
And that sort of goes back to, yeah, exactly. And it sort of goes back to what we were talking about, how, you know, their relationship would be if none of this happened. You know, I don't think their relationship never would have progressed. They would have stayed at that same antagonistic step that it would have been at. And it's only because that they are facing that dark end that they ever grew as close as they were.
Really cool symbolism. That's something I really enjoy.
So Makoto's theme song is Katy Perry's Firework?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
A and B incoming.
Oh, no. Yeah, I never really thought of Winter Fireworks as being like her theme, but I guess this is something you could apply to the rest of Kanon as well. Just, you know, transient miracles, as Amino would say. It's really cool.
Okay, so the visual novel, I believe it was Amino, even calls it out that at this point she is a fox spirit, which is equivalent to a kitsune in Japanese folklore. And the parallels between the two are really obvious once you start looking into it. And it makes her earlier character a little more bearable whenever you think about it in this context. Especially if you think about the fact that she's only, you know, she was a fox up until a couple of days ago by the end of this route. And so, you know, her human interactions maybe aren't up to snuff. But at the same time, the kitsune are notorious pranksters, whether it be just for the fun of it or out of being out of actually, you know, wanting to get at somebody. That could go either way, because at the beginning, Makoto does want to get revenge on Yuichi. And,
for Yuichi's first konyaku prank.
Right. And so you've got that, and you know, that makes as annoying as the 300 different prank scenes that all inevitably backfire become. You know, it makes a little more sense in that light whenever you look at it as a parallel to this creature. And as I was saying earlier, there's that story about how when they get revealed, they inevitably, however they're found out, they inevitably they run off and they resume being a fox, and they're basically never seen from again. This is a little bit different in that she just straight up disappears, but it's the same idea that she's been revealed, and so now she's starting to fade away from everyone.
I think there's something really interesting about this, is that in folklore, foxes can become very, very, very old. Like, centuries old. If you've ever heard of the idea of like a nine-tailed fox, the idea is that as foxes grow older, they become wiser, and as they become wiser, they grow more tails, and it's the nine-tailed fox is kind of this idea that the fox reaches kind of their maximum potential, and they grow to be incredibly old and ancient and very, very wise creatures. And what's interesting as far as Makoto goes is that we don't see that from her. She's clearly not a very old character in terms of emotional or intellectual development. And so it makes you wonder, like, how much life did she give up in order to have this moment with Yuichi. It might not even be like she's giving up a regular fox's amount of life, where you say, oh, well, she was she must have been a 7-year-old fox, and, foxes only live to be like, 8 or 9 or whatever in the wild, so it's not like she's really giving up that much time. But it could be that this is a character who could have been around for centuries had she not made this choice, and she gave up practically an eternity just so that she could have a week with Yuichi.
Right. And well, in the folklore, it actually states that the kitsune, they are shapeshifters, but they do not learn how to take on a human form until they are at least 100 years old.
Which obviously isn't something that they kept here, or at least it doesn't seem to be.
It's interesting. It's interesting how they actually delve into folklore, because I think it makes it more plausible, an explanation as to how the hell did the fox turn human, right? Even if you don't believe in folklore, it gives it a believable reason.
Yeah, it gives it that hint of verisimilitude.
Yeah, so I mean,
what was that word you just used?
Verisimilitude.
Yep, that was a couple of syllables.
The appearance of being true or real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it gives a bit of credibility, but at the end it's still folklore, and even people who are into folklore can't exactly explain how does it work. I mean, one interpretation is that yes, she's 100 years old and she got the ability to shapeshift into human, or another idea is that she used this magical power to sacrifice her own life and turn into a human, which maybe she was only like a 10-year-old fox and she wasn't able to do that, and that's why she had to sacrifice so much just to become human.
That makes sense.
Maybe. Like if she was a 100-year-old fox, she wouldn't have any problem. Just boop, I'm human.
Well, I like how, if they're gonna lean on it, I like that they stay consistent with it, and they do it here. Like the more you look into it, because it seems a little odd because it's brought up and then it's never elaborated on. Whenever he's recalling, hey, I think I've known a Makoto before, and then it hits him. He's like, oh yeah, there was a girl that I liked as a kid that was a Makoto, and but I never talked to her. I never, interacted with her, and then that just never gets brought up.
They never
and
elaborated
it's brushed
on
off on.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you look into the folklore, Kitsune have the ability to replicate perfectly, and then some of them even say their memories to an extent. Any person that they've seen before. And so it's not unreasonable that whenever Yuichi was taking care of her while she was a fox, that she did see that Makoto and realized that, hey, Yuichi really likes this person. He seems to look at her a lot, and so that may explain why that's the form she chose to take.
Yeah.
That she's wanting to, draw his attention.
Yeah.
Boy, Kid Yuichi sure had shit taste.
Bad, Pepe. Bad! Get down!
Bad! Down, Pepe!
Oh. Well, the Kitsune does tie into the ending, I think, where Amano does say, I forgot to take a screenshot of this, unfortunately, where the Kitsune can gather around to make a wish come true.
That was her speculation, yeah.
Yeah. And wasn't that where she says, just kidding? I don't know. Anyway.
That's when she was like, wouldn't it be great if candy fell from the sky, if a miracle could happen?
Yeah.
And then Yuichi's response is, well, I know what I'd wish for.
And then the screen shows Makoto with Piro.
Oh, yeah.
Nani?
Nandato!
Hey, look, we're done with this story. Just kidding.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant. Yeah, the elephant in the room. We're now finally talking about it.
I don't know why no one on the forum brought this up. I thought this would be the first thing people would start questioning, but no, everyone just kind of ignored it.
I'm thinking of bringing it up again so we can get more input after the podcast.
Please do, because I want to know what other people think of this scene. But I don't think you'd. It's such a weird decision. Like, do they just want to end it on a happy note with no, like, elaboration? Like, oh, it's okay, she got better. And that's it. Just leave it like that. It seems so bad.
I don't know. I think it's like one of those open to interpretation sort of cliffhanger endings that you see every once in a while, like the top at the end of Inception, or the whisper at the end of
God damn it.
Oh man, what was that movie? Lost in Translation. Like,
yeah.
You know, those sorts of things where you walk away and you're like, really? Like, what was that? You know,
when the author goes, you figure out what happened. You're like, no, screw you. That's what we pay you for.
That's the point of the podcast. That's the point of the book club.
I think that's what this one is. I think that it's like, well, you can read it two ways. One way you could read it is that this is just what he is thinking of. It's like, what...
Yeah.
Well, I know what I would wish for, and in his mind, it's like he's imagining this image. That's what he would wish for. And so that's...
Yeah.
And the other way is that that's actually what happened. And then you have to wonder, okay, why did that happen? You know, was it that the foxes made this wish, or was it something else? You know, not to go into anything else in this story, but I mean, you know, is it
so
another one of the...
about this.
I mean, is it another one of the miracles like we maybe saw at the end of Nayuki, where it was like, you know, Akiko got better, right? So,
yeah,
you know, is it another one of those miracles? Or
I guess it's a choose your own adventure story. Choose
your
own
own ending story.
So
your
which
ending
one
depends on how much you like Makoto.
So which ending would you guys tend to go with? Would you tend to go with the miracle ending, or that's just what Yuichi was thinking of?
Bittersweet. I am such a sucker for bittersweet endings these days. You know, I much prefer when a story has the balls to go through with a sad ending, even at the cost of, like, it being a sad ending, you know? Yeah, I think there's much more beauty in this whole story if Makoto doesn't just suddenly come back like nothing ever happened. I feel the beauty of everything that happened in this route was in accepting that loss is inevitable and trying to deal with that. So, yeah, I hope it's not. She didn't come back to life, which is a terrible thing to say, but for the integrity of the story, I believe that's important.
I agree. I mean, I also...
Yeah, don't disturb the dead. Let her die in peace, Magaska says.
Don't.
Exactly.
Let her die in peace. I mean, that's how I interpreted it personally. Like, it's a very literal continuation from Yuichi's last line. I know what I would wish for, and then he imagines Makoto in that meadow along with Piro.
Yeah, I guess, like, if I think about it, I guess it makes sense like that, which I'm much more happy
Besides,
about.
my Amano after my Doki Doki Amano after headcanon won't work if that came through. So
Yeah.
As a fan of Makoto, I want to believe that she came back, but as a fan of the actual story and the emotions that came with it, if she came back, it kind of invalidates everything that happened before.
Yeah.
That, and think of how ticked off Amano would be.
And you know...
why didn't my fox come back?
You know, it's sad to say, there are many key endings that do go with the happy miracle at the very end that just overturns everything, and I want to think that this route isn't one of them. Going back to the forum discussion, our top posters for this week were Aizenkobu, therationalpi, Sanji Sanada, Magauska, and Kanon. Thanks again for your awesome contributions, guys. Look forward to more in the coming weeks. And also, a big special thank you once again to forum member Black Hayate for the Makoto drawing you submitted to us. Unfortunately, you ended up submitting the drawing just after we finished recording the podcast, so I've had to edit this bit in the post, so please bear with me. Thank you very much for your fan art, I really love it. And to all of our members watching this, I hope we can expect some more fan art for the My Route next week.
I'm impressed with us. We managed to make it through the entire thing without making any sort of a foxy lady pun.
I was more scared of a ring ding 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 dingity ding joke.
I mean, we already know what the fox says. She says "Ow."
Ow.
Aw.
On that note, I'm going to bring this podcast to a close. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and thank you to Bowiie for being our guest once more. You had a lot of great insight with the Kitsune there, and yeah, thanks for your input.
Aye.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
No problem.
It was great to have you on.
Next week is going to be a very interesting one. Mize Route. Have you heard of it? It's pretty out there. I know, like, this is definitely more of an atypical sort of key route, and I'm really excited to see whether people like it or hate it, or I don't know, but it should be interesting nonetheless.
About endings.
Yeah, you want to talk about endings? Oh, yeah. So look forward to that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, if you've already started reading, or if you're like Pi and you just blitzed through the entire game already, feel free to jump on the forum right now and let us know what you think about our route, because then we're going to have lots more stuff to talk about on the podcast. So I hope we can look forward to your contributions there. Well, until next week, guys.
Oh no. The whole route was her ultimate get back at him prank.
Oh my god! No.
Oh no.
It actually could happen. Oh my god, that would be so bad.
I know what I would wish for.
Psych!